The House will come to order. Members, please register. Have all members registered? Have all members registered? Good. All right, a quorum is present. The House and gallery will please rise for the invocation, which will be offered by the Honorable Jeff Berry of Brazoria County.
Thank you, Speaker. Would you please bow your heads? Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for allowing each and every one of us to be in this room today, giving us the ability to serve our constituents in the best way that we know how. We love you, we praise you, we glorify your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Retta Bowers of Dallas County to lead us in the pledges of allegiance to the United States and Texas flags. The Chair recognizes Representative Barbara Gervin-Hawkins from the wonderful Bexar County to lead us in the pledges today.
It's a special day. Colleagues, first of all, Mr. Speaker, colleagues, and members of the gallery, I'm honored to stand before you today to pledge allegiance to our American flag and to our Texas flag, because today is going to be a great day. So please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor to our Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You came in clutch.
All right.
Okay, the Chair will now hear excuses for absent members. Please excuse Ms. Yvonne Davis of Dallas because of important business in the district on motion of Mr. Anchia of Dallas. Please excuse Ms. Kerwin to attend her daughter's Senate confirmation on motion of Mr. Curry. Please excuse Mr. Martinez Fisher because of family business on motion of Mrs. Gervin-Hawkins. And please excuse Mr. Lopez of Bexar County because of important business in the district on motion of Ms. Gervin-Hawkins. Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. It is so ordered. Please excuse Ms. Ordaz and because of important business in the district on motion of Mr. Morales. Any objection? Chair hears none. Members, please excuse Mr. Garrow because of important business in the district. On motion of Representative Hunter. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. All right, members, can we get some order? You may want to take your seats for an announcement by Representative LaHood of Bexar County. Mr. LaHood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, last night, 7 San Antonio police officers were shot in line of duty responding to a call in 121. I would like to remind everyone of the risks our law enforcement officers face every day. Thank God all officers sustain non-life-threatening injuries. I ask that we keep all officers and their families in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members.
Thank you, Mr. LaHood. Members, you may take your seats. Mr. Raymond moves to reduce to writing the remarks and place in the journal. Is there any objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Chair recognizes Mr. Longoria for an announcement you may want to pay attention to, members.
Yes, members, this is a very important announcement. So if you haven't RSVP'd yet, please do. Our annual member game is coming up February 4th, 2025 at DKR. And I know there's a big incoming class of freshman members, so I urge all members to sign up, especially the freshmen, because it's the vets versus the freshmen. And I will tell you this, the veterans are the Kansas City Chiefs of the Texas House. So we'll see what happens this go round. So I urge everyone to please RSVP. And also we will have some Longhorn legends there, so make sure to sign up. It's always good fun, and hopefully nobody gets hurt this go round. So thank you.
All right, members, before we begin our business for today, I have a few announcements. Will you first please join me in wishing Mr. Gerdes a very happy birthday? All right, members, also, I will let you know that my office is still scheduling member visits about meeting about your legislative priorities and things we can be helpful with during the session. We have thus far met with well more than half of this body. We'll resume scheduling meetings on Monday next week and throughout next week. So if you would like a meeting, please make a time. You can contact Paige, and happy to visit with you as well. Members, I'd also note that instructions for using the floor amendment system, referred to as FAST, have been placed on your desk. You will need your Surface Pro laptops to access FAST in the chamber. There will be additional Legislative Council support staff on the floor to assist you today if you have any issues with that technology. All right, members, Chair recognizes Mr. Schofield for a recognition.
Thank you, members. Mr. Kitzman, Mr. Morgan, and I would like to welcome to their Texas House the Leadership Katy Group from Katy, Texas, the Chamber of Commerce. They're here to watch us in action today, and welcome to your Texas House.
Okay, the chair recognizes Ms. Hull for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, if the Harris County delegation everyone in Harris County. If y'all can meet at my desk in the back corner over here after today, we need to elect new officers for our delegation. Thank you.
All right. Members, we are currently operating under temporary rules which incorporate the House rules from last session. I would like to remind members of the rules of decorum to be followed during the debate. Do not pass between the front and back microphones when any member is at the front or back microphone. You must always seek recognition from the chair before speaking into either microphone. You must wait for the chair to recognize you before proceeding. All remarks made from the front and back microphone must relate to the purpose for which you were recognized or the matters currently under consideration. Thank you, members. The chair lays out the following resolution. The clerk will read the resolution.
HR4 by Hunter. Adopting the rules of the House for the 89th legislature.
All right, the chair recognizes Mr. Hunter to explain the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. And we have new members, and I want to make sure you know the procedure. I'm going to lay out an outline of the general rules for the House. And then you'll be able to ask questions on the back mic. But I want to go over certain portions so everybody knows the basis of what's before you. Some of you I've talked to, most everybody in here, I've had some conversation, not everybody, and I appreciate it. I want you to know these rules everybody got at the same time. Even the Speaker of the House had not seen what was filed. And the reason is I felt that it was important that we 150 members receive everything at the same time. I want you to know that if you have criticism, give it to me. If you have ideas, give it to me. I've heard every rumor in the world, give it to me. But the bottom line is, these are the procedures that we as a House follow. And I'm going to ask that you remember this is not policy today. This is procedure. And this is what provides the structure, the decorum, the discussion among all 150 districts in the state of Texas. So let me go through some of the points of this bill. And it's really an HR. And I want you to know that I've been here a few years. And I've pulled some of the concepts from the past. I have talked to all of you in some way, whether it was email, contact by phone, text, social media. The one thing I heard is you want to be involved and you want to work. And I also heard about how do we set up different structures. And so let me outline this out. Number one, the biggest question I get is, why'd you send me over 200 pages at 4:30 a.m.? Well, guess what? that's short compared to what's coming up pretty soon. But that is not actually accurate. You were sent the rules from the last legislative session with my update. And I ask it to be calculated, only 44 of 232 pages, 19% contain changes. 14 pages contain changes not related to committee structure, and the rest relate to the committee structure. So here are the main points. I've been here a long time, and I think a lot of the committees we have are duplicative. I think they basically do the same thing, and I think a lot of you say you want to work, and yet you're on a committee that gets 12 bills or 40 bills. So I looked at these committees, and what I did was abolish certain committees. And this is what I did. I abolished business and industry. I abolished county affairs. I abolished defense and veteran affairs. I abolished juvenile justice and family issues. I abolished resolutions calendars. I abolished urban affairs. But I took those topics and jurisdiction and placed in two newly created committees. One is a committee called Delivery of Government Efficiency, and the other is Intergovernmental Affairs. So 6 abolished, 2 created, you have 4 eliminated. So I want you to understand you have 2 new jurisdiction committees, and you have 6 that have been abolished. So you basically have eliminated 4. The second is a concept that evolved throughout the years called a permanent standing subcommittee. Now, as I just told one set of my colleagues, nothing's permanent in rules because they only last for 2 years, but it sounds good. But the permanent standing subcommittees are basically for you to work. This is a concept that was done when I first came in, and I know Tom knows it, John knows it, Alan has been affected by it, Ms. T and John Smithy, because we were all back there then. But the idea is to get you to work, and it gives the Speaker discretion to get these committees appointed. And they are going to be placed under the following permanent standing subcommittees: criminal jurisprudence, homeland security, intergovernmental affairs, judiciary and civil jurisprudence, public education, public health, state affairs, trade and workforce, transportation, and ways and means. The goal is not to exclude, the goal is to include. You're going to have chairman, you're going to have vice chairman, you're going to have subcommittees that are permanent. For example, some of you deal with rural affairs. Trent, you've had to deal with broadband, and I use that as an example. Those subcommittees can deal with that specific topic and then bring it to the full committee. Some of you have said, hey, time ran out. Permanent subcommittees can make sure the time doesn't run out on your bills. And many of you new members, where the impact is when your constituents are wanting you to get things done for your district, this gets you some methods where you can get your bills moving. That's what this concept is. The chairs will be the majority party. The vice chairs will be the minority party. The other construction is left with the Speaker of the House. Are there budgets created? Yes. And they'll be handled through House administration. We want all the chairs, they get a committee budget, the vice chairs have a budget to work. And if we're really truly a body of working together, these concepts work. I didn't set this up with a gotcha here or a gotcha there. But what I've tried to do is create a different framework that isn't that different than how we have worked before. So the bottom line, really what we've done is abolish committees, created two, changed the jurisdiction, set up subcommittees, set up the system of chairs, vice chairs with budgets, but everything has to work. And yes, we do encourage vice chairs and chairs to work together. What's wrong with that? It doesn't mean that you can stop the chair of the committee. It's really an encouragement. We were elected as 150 people representing the state of Texas. So our role is, let's get something done. And let's not forget that we got main issues that we got to tackle. So that's what happened. I'm the one that laid it out. And the document that you have is my thoughts talking with many of you. And many of these concepts I got from you all. Then I was asked, well, you had indicated about the laying out the rules and taking the amendments. You're correct. But I also thought we should put them things up front. Absolutely. And added that there. So, Mr. Speaker, I think everybody's seen the 200-page document, which is really not 200 pages, with a new structure. And I'll take some questions.
Mr. Tinderholt, for what purpose?
Parliamentary inquiry, sir.
State your inquiry.
How many hours are normally required to give notice before a bill or resolution before the House is coming up for adoption?
I can only speak to questions about this resolution at this time.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, we're expected to process a vote on rules that'll dictate how the body operates this session when it was filed at 4 a.m. And I know it's only 19% and 44 pages. Mr. Speaker, I just don't feel like with this being as important of a topic as it is, I would like to recommend that we actually move this to another day so that the members and the freshmen can actually do this. Is this something you'd consider, Mr. Speaker? Recognize a motion for that?
So that would not be a proper parliamentary inquiry at this time.
All
If
right.
you have a motion, you can bring it down to the front.
Mr. Speaker, does the gentleman yield for a couple questions?
Mr. Hunter, does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, is it fair to say that just last week in our caucus meeting, you did state that you would bring forward the 88th caucus rules and hand them, like that's where we would start today?
Yes.
Is it also fair to say that it's not normal, what we're doing today in the 10 years I've been here is not normal to have them modified before they come to the floor?
I don't agree. I've been here 26 years, and I don't agree with you.
Okay. Well, I've been here 10, and it's the first time I've seen it in 10 years. And I know it's only 19%, 44 pages, but that's a lot, especially for 25 or 30 freshmen. I'd understand if it were the same rules being filed from the 88th session. Mr. Chairman, do you feel it's fair to the members and our constituents to cram a rules package through with what appears to give Democrats, when I read it, it looks like they get more power, and we want to be able to look at it and actually make amendments that are important to us and our constituents? I don't feel that that's fair. What would you say if I were to ask you, why did this happen so quickly?
Mr. Tinderholt, the rules, as you've indicated, 81%, everybody's known about since 2023. So the remaining 19%, I think we got to all be honest in here. Eliminating committees, talking about chairs and subcommittees and vice chairs, that's been pretty well talked about for probably 2 to 4 years. So is this a surprise? No, I don't think so. 2, I don't think we're cramming anything. you're very much involved for 10 years. Major bills come before just like this. This is nothing unusual. We have left open times for people to talk. We've been working on these issues not for a week to 2 weeks. We've been working on this for weeks. In fact, different groups in this room have been holding meetings on rules for at least 7 months. So do I think it's a cram? No. Do I think these issues, I don't care whether you've been here 100 years or this is your first year. Most everybody is aware of these issues. Do I think this is a fair approach that I've talked to people about? I do. I don't believe it's a cram. I don't think it's any different than what we go through all the time with major bills. But I've also been available and talked to everybody that wanted to talk, and that's why I'm here. And I've gone to the groups that I can. So, do I think this is unusual? I do not. Do I think that these type of bills this size are looked at this way? Absolutely. But do I really believe a lot of people have been involved with these concepts? Yes. So I don't think there's a lot of surprises on the concepts.
Mr. Chairman, does the rules package give vice chairs additional power they currently don't have? And let me read this. Page 69, section 6A states that the chair shall arrange to ensure that measures and matters designated by the vice chair are promptly scheduled for public hearing under this rule. Does measures and matters not mean Democrat vice chairs can dictate what's on an agenda in a committee?
As I told you earlier in the meeting that we had, no, I don't agree with your interpretation. What the language is to strongly encourage the chair and the vice chair to work together. I think that's good. Does it mandate that they can override the chair? The answer is no. But there certainly would be a good goal of chairs and vice chairs to work together. That language is to ensure they're working together. Most that I've worked with on both sides of the aisle work together. But no, I don't think that does anything more that encourages good working together, and it doesn't take the chairman's power away.
Mr. Chairman, we're often required to pre-file amendments on bills, which is kind of what I'm alluding to today. Isn't that to allow the author and its members to have time to review and digest the information in order to make quality decisions?
Where I disagree with you is we haven't passed the final rules. We're under temporary rules. Right now, there isn't a pre-filing an amendment deadline. Anybody here could be filing their amendments. I don't know how many, but anybody in here can do it. So we're not under those rules, and this is a resolution. Now, passing this package for all the members, there are deadlines. There are certain times you have pre-filing. As you and I know, there's the concept of calendar rules that we look at. And we've looked at them under the budget. So those exist under our general rules, which we're voting on today. But today, you're on a resolution prior to passing the package of general rules.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, we've worked together, with me
Absolutely.
at least, for 10 years. I have
Absolutely.
the utmost respect for the amount of work and the quality of work that you do. I would like to respectfully request that you accept moving this, basically withdrawing it and moving it to tomorrow or Monday to give staff. Is that something that you would even consider today?
I've learned a long time, Mr. Tenderholt, that the speaker is the gentleman or gentlelady standing right behind me. My name is Todd, not God. So I'm a presenter. I'm not the speaker. So unfortunately, I'm here to pass this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Tindall, for what purpose?
I would like to respectfully move to postpone further consideration of HR4 until Monday, January 27th at 10 a.m. so members and their staff have time to read what we're voting on.
Mr. Tinderholt, please bring your motion down front so we can discuss. Mr. Dutton, for what purpose?
Question of the author.
Does the gentleman yield for
Yes.
questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I must admit I haven't read completely through the bill, but I've read, I think, enough to understand what the significant departures are from past experience in this House. One of those is the Speaker. Well, let me ask it this way: the committees now will all be chaired by the majority party. Is that right?
Correct.
Where does that come from?
Where does that come from?
Yes, sir.
I
mean, what was the
Just-
sort of origin of that?
Discussion through the last 2 years with everybody.
Well, not everybody, because I didn't. Nobody
Well, no, I'm
talked to
just
me
talking
about
with everybody that I've been visiting with. Not everybody agrees, but that's where the discussion came.
it. And was that part of the Republican platform?
It's my understanding it is.
Okay, and it was also a part of the Republican platform that Republicans were going to vote to be the Speaker, that person who came out of the Republican caucus.
I don't understand the question.
Well, as I understand it, I was reading it, and there was a provision in the Republican policies that whoever was voted on out of the Republican caucus, that person was required to be voted on by the Republicans as Speaker. Is that right?
I believe there was something in the rules of the Republican Party.
So on January 14th, we didn't adhere to that rule at all, did we?
Well, I don't know if I agree with you, because if you deal with the various members of the Republicans in the House as well as outside, some believed it was and some believed it wasn't.
Well, it's true, though, that some Republicans didn't vote for the Republican
Absolutely.
caucus
Correct.
person. That's correct. And that would make it contradictory to what the policy was, that Republicans should vote for the person who came out of that caucus, right?
The reason I can't agree with that is because there's a difference between certain members and certain individuals on whether certain specifics were met. And so I will tell you, certain groups believe it was, certain groups do not.
Okay, and I appreciate that. So let's assume, for the purposes right now, that those who were correct. And if that were the case, then you would have to agree that we violated that provision, correct?
That I can't answer here. I don't know.
All right. And you've been here a long time, not as long as I have, but you've been here a long time. And most of the time, one of the things I've formulated in my mind is that for every solution, I guess I look to see what the problem is. One of the things I've realized is that there are 150 members in here, and they've got solutions to things that aren't problems. And what I wanted to know was there a problem that you were trying to cure by making Republicans only chairs?
I will tell you not the specific members, because I keep that confidential. We did have some members that raised concerns about prior sessions. Then I've talked to folks who wanted the policy decision. That's basically part of the origin for this position.
So on January 14th, I'm sure you saw the people with the red shirts on that were in the gallery. Is that where it comes from?
I'm sure they made an impact, and they're grassroots, and they have every right to express their position.
Correct.
Certainly, they're part of the process.
Right. And what I wondered was, I did have a discussion with one of them, and what I was wondering was, what was the problem they were trying to cure? And what the person said to me was that, well, Democrats were holding up parts of the Republican agenda. Had you heard that also?
Yes.
Do you know if that's, would you say that's true or false?
I do not know what the other committees did or did not do. I do know that was a concern that was elevated and that has been expressed. Do I have personal knowledge of a specific instance? I don't.
Right. And do you know which, in those conversations, do you know which agenda item was held up by Democrats?
I will tell you that I've had members talk to me and they have brought up specifics, but I'll keep that to that member unless they want to say.
Well, oddly enough, I have that too, and he will remain nameless, but one of the Republicans came to me and said the only people that ever held up his stuff was Republicans, and not Democrats at all. And so, but this bothers me because this represents a sea change from where this legislature has been. When I came to this body, there were, I believe, 91 Democrats. At that time, we had actually 2 Republicans who were chairs of committees. And I think the question was asked then, well, why do we have Republican chairs? And the answer was, this is Texas. This is not Washington, D.C. And yet, I wonder if anybody gave any consideration to the fact that we are moving in the direction of being just like Washington, D.C. Have you heard that at all, or have you considered that at all?
I have heard that Washington has their set, Texas has their set, but there's been lots of comments for and against. But the general position was this was the majority party's priority, and it should be instituted.
Do you know that this wouldn't be a first for Texas if we did this?
I don't know. I don't know if this is the first.
Well, I can tell you that from my experience, I remember the Senate. Bob Bullock did this when he was lieutenant governor. Bob Bullock made the decision that he was going to only appoint Democrats as Senate chairs. You probably don't know that, but that's what happened. He couldn't wait until the next session to change that because it absolutely created chaos in the Senate. And that next session, he appointed both Donnie Henderson and Ike Harris, both Republicans, as chairs of committees. And I'm just wondering if anybody fears a repeat of the same chaos here in this body.
That I don't know.
Okay, and finally, let me ask this. There was a coalition of Democrats and Republicans that voted for the Speaker, correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
And the Speaker always had the latitude to appoint who he wanted to as chair, correct?
Correct.
So if he chose to appoint all Republicans as chairs, he could do that without this amendment, couldn't he?
I believe that's correct.
So we're trying to dictate to the Speaker, is that what we're trying to do, or where are we going with this?
I think it's just simply a position that a majority party can make the the procedural decision to put in chairs of the committees.
Well, and where do we, is that the end of this, or is that the beginning of something, do you think?
That I don't know.
Well, what frightens me is that this could blossom into something that's not only chaotic for this body, but it absolutely hinders the growth of Texas. And so I ask this body to tread lightly in making this decision. I didn't come here to be most of my career, I was never a chair anyway. And so I don't stand here in support of me being a chair at all. That's not the reason I'm asking the question, but I'm asking the question because of the respect for this body and because of where we are, and we need to include everybody in the decisions. And finally, let me ask it this way. One of the things we did last session had to do with DEI, correct?
I think we dealt, I don't remember the specifics, but we got involved in DEI.
Right. And if it's all Republican, would that suggest to you that perhaps we have a DEI program?
I don't know.
Well, it just seems to me that if you're limiting it in any way to one facet, which is what the argument was last time, was that we ought to be everything ought to be based on meritocracy. And yet here we are today saying meritocracy doesn't even count for anything. All you have to do is be a Republican, and then you win. And to me, I don't think we can have it both ways. I don't think we can have it both ways. And I'm talking to the people who on January 14th elected Speaker Burrows as chairman now. Where are you? Where are you? Because I recognize part of the problem here is that there are some people who believe that the Republican people out there might come after them because they voted for Dave Burrows. But if they vote for this, then that's less likely to happen. I don't think that's the case, Mr. Chairman. I think that the people who have chosen to do what was right in this body will never have to fear anything. But I think the moment we decided to be political cowards, that's when we get into trouble. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker,
Representative Busey, for what purpose?
will the gentleman yield for some questions?
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Representative, I know you gave us a quick overview in your outline, but will you dig deeper into the two new committees, the standing committees you want to add, and your vision and purpose for those?
So one of the committees, Representative, is delivery of government efficiency. And so everybody knows it will be given jurisdiction over government efficiency waste. It will give government transparency in operations. It gives and advances, and this is important that I didn't highlight, science and technology. It also gets into the jurisdiction of artificial intelligence and emerging technologies. Because of the increase, not only in your jurisdiction, but the state of Texas, of AI, emerging technologies, and science and technology, there's a huge push. So we've combined those issues with that committee. The second is intergovernmental affairs. Intergovernmental affairs combines the jurisdiction of county affairs, urban affairs, and the jurisdiction of international relations and economic development when it related to state-federal relations. So those are the basic general description of the two new committees and what they'll be doing.
Can you explain how delivery of government efficiency committee is going to be different from a sunset committee and other aspects of what we're doing?
Well, of course, as you know, It's the makeup of the committee that drives the focus. But I think this is very, very parallel to what you're seeing across the country, nationally as well as state, where they're looking at agencies, they're looking at areas to see are things happening, are the budgets being followed. So I do think there could be some overlap, but that's not necessarily bad. But I think the whole point is to give an assessment to everybody here who has to vote on these agencies and vote on these programs so that they feel like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, Representative Zwiener, for what purpose?
Mr. Speaker, does the gentleman yield for some questions?
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Chairman Hunter. I was hoping to visit with you a little more about some of the committee consolidation decisions.
Sure.
Specifically, looking at county affairs and urban affairs being combined into one committee.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit more about your thinking behind that?
Yes, and so the members know I've been on both committees. And one deals with city, one deals with county. You also have state-federal relations. I've also seen that a lot of the issues are very similar, even though you may be a statutory municipality versus a constitutional created county. But to me, Representative, you could combine those committees and the workload would be more important, in my opinion, and larger to combine these issues. And today, we're seeing things in the county area going one way, city areas going another way. I think it's a good way to kind of see how local government in these areas are going so that members know. And it also educates the public and the taxpayer on what a county does and a city does in the same committee. But I just think it's more efficient. I think it's more effective to bring those under one umbrella, one caption.
Yeah, I'm curious, Representative Hunter, when you were considering this, did you look at the number of bills referred to those committees and?
Throughout the different years, yes.
Okay. Are you concerned at all about that being too much workload for a single committee?
No, I don't. I think that, well, first of all, the Speaker's office, with the involvement of their legal staff, will be able to look at the various jurisdictions and assign workloads to the committees. But no, I think you can manage it, and I think it's a great deal. I think it also makes that committee more important for the members.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you. I just, I know those aren't our most popular committees at all
Sure.
times, but I know they do really critical work, and I know we've heard a lot of concerns from our cities and counties. So I just want to make sure they have a venue to be heard and that we have a venue to make sure that's done efficiently.
And what you just said, sometimes your local governments parallel on the same law requests, government requests, base operation requests. This is a great way to make sure that all local governments can either be distinguished or parallel. So I think it's very, very good, but it also gives the committee a lot more responsibility and a lot more focus.
Okay, thank you. I also saw that this committee, I think, has picked up some new duties that weren't part of anything previously, the relations between the state of Texas and other nations.
State, federal.
Yeah, so was that previously included in either county affairs or urban affairs, or is that new?
No, that came from the International Relations and Economic Development Committee.
Okay. And that's being folded in to another committee as well,
That is
correctly?
correct.
Okay. And the other sort of general question I had is, how did you decide which committees to increase membership on? Because I saw we had some important committees grow. I think higher education, though, stayed the same number. How were you thinking about which committees were going to increase in membership?
Really what I did there was kind of look at the past, what we've done often on through the past sessions, and then just kind of talked with a lot of the folks, some of the members, but a lot of the people, for example, in higher ed, getting their ideas. It was just kind of using some of that as the formula.
Okay. And thank you again for your patience with these questions as we sort of wrap our head around the committee structure changes. I think it's the first big changes we've seen since I've been in the legislature. The other change I had a question about was combining the congratulatory and memorial calendar into local and consent. Are there any concerns there about capacity, or does that change anything else about how that calendar functions for members to acknowledge our constituents?
No, it actually, I think, strengthens local and consent. I also think that it gives a good check and balance for everybody on the floor on resolutions as well as the local and consent calendar. And it's a good streamlined process. It does increase the workload of local and consent, but it also kind of clarifies, as you and I know in the past, sometimes resolutions go to different committees. This way we're streamlining it, and folks can come to that committee and provide their support, their opposition, their concern, or whatever. So that was the idea, and I think it really does give the members fairly streamlined on where to go.
Okay, so I'm sorry, let me clarify that. You said some resolutions that previously may have gone to different committees. Like I remember having one come through public health one session. But under this, those resolutions would entirely go to this committee?
I can't say that they'll entirely, because there's certain resolutions that would go to other committees, which we've had in the past. I think, for example, State Affairs has certain resolutions that go to it.
Okay. So this combination is not really a change in procedure, just a consolidation of workload. Okay. Thank you so much, Chairman. I appreciate it.
Representative Schoolcraft, for what purpose?
Question, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield for a question?
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Chairman Hunter, first, I also appreciate all the work you've put into this. I noticed that 4:20 this morning, we were finishing up our good night's sleep, and you were finishing your good night of work. So, thank you. As you know, I do have questions about the standing subcommittees. I literally have one question on that. Under the current rules or the proposed rules, do the chairmen still have the ability to appoint subcommittees and send bills to subcommittees?
The speaker would appoint the subcommittee.
I understand, but at least previously, I remember chairman routinely would create subcommittees and send bills to them. Are they still able to do that?
Yeah, I think they could still do that. These are permanent standards.
I understand.
Correct.
So my question is, if chairmen already have the ability to look at their workload and the bills coming before them, why wouldn't we rely on that mechanism to address this issue rather than creating in the rules a permanent, inflexible structure? When the chairmen appoint their subcommittees and the chairman of those subcommittees, they're much more likely, in my opinion, to work together. So is there anything in your permanent subcommittees that could not be accomplished by a standing committee chairman creating a subcommittee?
The permanent subcommittee, yes, is the answer. The committees that are established by a chairman are not necessarily holding hearings. They're not necessarily having jurisdiction over specific topics. Permanent standing committee could have the bills actually referred directly to them, and they focus. That is not under the current system.
Okay, you said they do not necessarily hold hearings and take testimony, but isn't it correct that those subcommittees can do that if the chairman asks them to?
Under the past rules, it's not as flexible under the rules you and I used to be under. That's why we were creating this, so that it has some strength on specific topics, because it's not the way they do the subcommittees now are rare, and it doesn't have the same strength, doesn't have the referral capacity, and doesn't have the specifics provided there.
Okay, so you're saying that the rules as you're proposing, the chairman could appoint subcommittees, but they just wouldn't quite have the same power as the permanent subcommittees under your rule?
Well, a permanent subcommittee can get a referral directly. It doesn't have to come from the chairman.
Sure, but a
And-
chairman can get it and immediately send it to a subcommittee.
Not
can't he?
necessarily, not necessarily. Under
Okay,
the-
my concern, though, is I really think we want to have the chairman of the standing committees and the chairman of these subcommittees to be working together, and if everything goes well, they will. But the permanent subcommittee chairman and those members are appointed by the speaker, and they can do what they want.
No, they can't.
Well, okay, you're saying the chairman can call a bill out, but they
Call
can
the bill out, hold a hearing, do anything that they
But those
want.
members are much less likely to do anything that would require that kind of action if they were appointed and overseen by the chairman. Wouldn't you agree on that?
I don't agree with you on that.
All
I've
right.
seen how it works, and I know what you're talking about on the general subcommittees, but no, this has teeth in it, responsibility and work. I think the others are more flexible. They haven't operated the same in the past.
Okay.
And this gives them some strict, but the key is the chairman still maintain control.
Okay.
And I really believe that you got some workload, and these members are given an opportunity to really engage on a serious issue.
Okay. I will be submitting then an amendment to pull out the standing committees, but I would be more than happy to accept any amendment you might propose to give the chairman the power that they would need to empower those subcommittees to do whatever needs to be done. I just would much rather have those subcommittees appointed and managed by the chairman. Thank you.
Representative Moody, for what purpose?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'm sure it will shock you 0% that my questions are related to the Committee on Criminal Jurisprudence. Historically, this is one of the busiest committees in the House, isn't that correct?
I don't know if it's the busiest, but I've been on it, and it's very busy.
In fact, I think in 2017, maybe you and I shared the leadership roles on that very committee.
Correct.
Did we work collaboratively together?
Yes.
My understanding, as I've looked at committee workload over the years, is that this is, and I guess I'll just have you accept, this is usually one of the top 5 bill referral committees. And so I guess a little bit dovetailing with what Mr. Schoolcraft was asking about, we've added jurisdiction to the Criminal Jurisprudence Committee that includes issues related to juvenile justice, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And as you know, that has been an area of, we made a policy decision some time back that we don't treat adults in the criminal justice system the same as we treat juveniles in the criminal justice system. Different policy goals, different approaches, different ways to address the conduct of criminality among adults and children, correct?
Correct.
And so I guess I have kind of two, I don't want to call it a concern because I think one of the concerns is answered, but I just want to lay it out. Adding that jurisdiction, which is currently housed in the Juvenile Justice and Family Issues Committee, is, I mean, by definition, will add more workload to this committee. Is that right?
I don't know, but I think it could.
Theoretically, could or should do that. Now, part of the way that your solution, I think part of the way that this is laid out and the solution that's available is a permanent standing committee carving out juvenile justice issues. I think it's the permanent standing subcommittee on juvenile justice, correct?
That is correct.
So is the intent there, based on what we've talked about, is to make sure there is a space that is divorced from the conversation related to the adult criminal justice system and the juvenile justice system?
Yes.
Because philosophically, you and I both agree that the ways in which you handle those issues should be different, should look different, correct?
Correct.
And the way that, and I just want to clarify because I think Mr. Schoolcraft was asking about the direct, there is authority for the speaker to directly refer bills to the subcommittee on juvenile justice.
Correct.
And then I guess what you would envision, obviously some of it matters what happens in practice, but that particular committee, which will be comprised of members appointed by the speaker, hopefully based on their passion for juvenile justice, are going to be able to chew on those issues, digest those issues for the standing committee. And in a perfect world, the chair of that committee would seek the advice of the subcommittee on how to handle the bills that had been heard by and delved into by the permanent subcommittee.
That's correct. An example, since you were chair of that committee, the issues sometimes are completely separated between juvenile and other parts of the criminal code. When you hold a hearing, how long are those people going to have to sit? How long are they going to have to travel? Do they miss getting to testify? Your committee is very long, and Chairman Collier behind you has been through it. It's can be very long, going very, very long into the evening. And you got kids. And so one of the ideas on that committee was to make sure it was fairly accessible so the public didn't feel they were cut out.
And I think that's actually very important. That's why I want to flesh that out because while by virtue of my political party I will not be in this position, this is a policy area that I care very much about, and I want to make sure that there is a structure that treats these issues with the respect and the time they deserve. And you said it very well. This committee is, I want to say, notorious for having fairly lengthy hearings. I think there have been times where we have adjourned well into the morning hours, making sure that everybody had their voice heard. So in this respect, when you carve this out, you have given a particular place to have the important discussions that deal with juveniles and the important discussions that reside with the adult criminal justice system. Is that right?
That's correct. And to add to it, because we've got two of the chairmen back there, you and Chair Collier, it's very important that the families get their day in the hearing. And you have a situation where you get into a bill that might be very controversial, and you don't get to the juvenile justice bills. This gives you an opportunity, and that's why they're not in every committee. It's only in 10 committees where we know it helps efficiency for you to have a subcommittee to do hearings, work with the public, to bring it to you as the chairman so that you as a full committee have gotten two things done at the same time. And unfortunately, in that arena, you've seen an increase in the legislation because of people's concerns in that arena. All this is a great way to get people involved, a great way to let them make a difference. It's also a great way to alleviate, frustration when people don't get to have their bills heard or to them come to you and get to say something.
Yeah, and in fact, when I first started in the legislature in '09, my chairman was Pete Gallego, and he had made a commitment to the members that every single bill that was referred to criminal jurisprudence would get a hearing. And I think he made that promise before realizing the workload that it had. And so he had to, on his own, create 5 subcommittees just to be able to fulfill that promise. That's how voluminous the bill count is in that committee. So I guess my last bit of questioning is, yes, we have the permanent standing subcommittee on juvenile justice, and I think that is good so that that policy arena has its space, because it is different and it needs to be treated with the respect that it should be, and I think that's enshrined here in the rules that you have. But there's nothing here that curtails the authority of the substantive standing committee on criminal jurisprudence to appoint other subcommittees, correct?
That's correct.
So if they need to divvy up to, like we did last session, asset forfeiture, Representative Harrison chaired that subcommittee, criminal procedure, Representative Bojani chaired that subcommittee, and they divvied up a lot of work there so that whoever ends up in this position would be able to then create other subcommittees, right? That authority is not being taken away from them, correct?
No, and in fact, the recent practice, as you and Chairman Collier know, and I'm picking on both of you because I was under both your committees, is a lot of times the chair subcommittees are on specific bills. And this is giving you jurisdiction on the topic. And I know you all have done a good job on balancing family, juvenile, and criminal code. And this is just a great way to get people involved and teach and get everybody to be able to say their day. The biggest frustration we always hear, I came all the way to Austin and didn't even get to say my piece.
Yep. No, and that happens a lot. So I'll stop my questioning there. I appreciate explaining how this is going to work, particularly in this policy arena. And like I said, while this is not an opportunity that is available to people like me at this point, I hope that whoever lands in this position will go back and watch the video of your conversation with me to understand how to do this the right way, because this policy area really defines who we are as a society, what's right, what's wrong, and how we deal with it. And you can't get a more important policy area, in my estimation, than this. And my hope is that the structure you've given here and the instruction that you've advised to the House today will instruct those who are going to be charged with this very important policy arena. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker,
Ms. Collier, for what purpose?
will the gentleman yield for questions?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Yes.
The gentleman yields.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to ask some clarifying questions. I appreciate this information that you provided. I've had a chance to read every page of this document since it's been released this morning. For the bills that are directly referred by the Speaker to the Permanent Standing Subcommittee, are those bills voted by the full Standing Committee, or are they voted by the Permanent Sub-Standings Committee?
It would go from the Standing Committee, whether they voted or not, to the full committee. In other words, the subcommittee would have to go to the full committee.
Okay, so no bill is leaving the subcommittee, whether it's a subcommittee created by the chair or the Speaker. All of them have to be voted on by the full Standing
Correct.
Committee. Is
That's
that right?
correct. There's no way to escape going to the full committee.
So every member of that committee will have a chance to vote on any bill that is assigned under that jurisdiction.
Correct.
All right. And so if that's the case, is it true that any bill that has been voted on by the full committee, whether it was heard in the subcommittee that was a standing subcommittee, those bills have to be reported out by the chair of the full committee?
Correct.
And under your proposal, that would be a person from the majority party. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. Patterson for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move the previous question on adoption of HR4.
All right, this motion requires the second of 25 members. The chair has been provided with the written seconds of a significantly more than 25 members. The motion is seconded. 3 minutes pro and con debate will be allowed on the motion for ordering the previous question. Chair recognizes Mr. Does anyone want to speak for or against the motion? The chair recognizes Mr. Schofield to speak against the motion.
Members, some of you are new to this House, and you are new to our tradition of debate. In the House, very seldom is much of the debate on the bill or the resolution. It's almost always on the amendments. We are now going to do something that is usually considered the nuclear option, and people yell and scream about it even after hours of debate. We are going to say no one can offer an amendment, no one can have any debate on this bill. We are going to go straight to voting on it. I want you to understand, for those of you who are new, that is usually considered the nuclear option. It's saying we're going to deny all members of this House the right to have any say other than being a monkey pushing a button. And I want you to understand that members on our side are going to see that you've decided that in the 89th session, that's how we're going to play. We can get 25 signatures too. If that's what you want to do, vote for this motion and shut us off and shut us up. But if you want to have a House that functions, and a House that hears all the members, and a House that is willing to debate by amendment as this House always has, vote no on this motion. Let's debate these rules, the rules by which we're going to run the House the entire session, and let's send the signal that this will be a House that will hear its members and not shut them down, because I know how to get 25 votes too, and I promise you, if you do this to us, we will do it to you. Please vote no on this motion. Thank you.
I find it interesting the Democrats are all smiling. I find it interesting the Democrats are smiling. This was
The chair recognizes Mr. Patterson to speak for the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, members, guests in the gallery, and those watching on television and online, I stand before you as a representative of more than 210,000 great Texans in Denton County, and I'm ready to get to work on the serious business of policymaking on their behalf. I also stand before you as a representative of the Texas House itself, with members who have discussed and debated in good faith the framework to move forward this session on these House rules. According to our rules, the motion I have made requires just 25 signatures from members in this chamber. I do not have 25 signatures. I have signatures from more than 45 Republicans and more than 32 Democrats, not only a majority from each political party, but a majority of the members of this body. Members who came together, agreed to work toward a solution, gave some, got some, and are ready to get to work. Recently, I went to visit my good friend Jeff Leach in his new Capitol office. Rep. Leach is the first member of my generation to have an office on the main hallway in the Capitol building. For a history nerd like me, it's really cool. As we sat in his office, Mr. Leach talked about the issues that members faced dating back to the 1800s, and we talked about some of the big decisions that could have been made in that very office. Some of those issues are long settled, but others, like transportation, education, and water, are still the drumbeat of policymaking today. These issues and others are serious topics affecting all 31 million Texans that we collectively represent. And I'm glad the policy, which should be the focus of this chamber, will get the focus, the effort, the transparency it deserves this session. Voting to approve this motion and then voting to approve the House rules are the first steps that we can take toward the reason most of us are here: solving problems for our constituents. What an honor it is to be here in this chamber, in this historic building, and to be here with this awesome responsibility. Folks, we're not here to play games today. We're here to get to work, and I move adoption.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Chasline, for what purpose?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Would you please read the names of the signatures who signed that?
Yeah, Mr. Chasline, they will be entered into the journal for all public to see.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Harrison, for what purpose?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Is it not standard practice to read the names when they've been submitted in prior sessions on motions like this?
No, sir, it is not. And
So
there's
it,
quite a
so it
few of
has it ever happened in the history of this chamber?
It's not. That's not. The chair is not advised. And I don't think that's a proper
The
parliamentary
chair is not
inquiry.
advised, or it has never happened in the history of this
The chair
chamber?
is not advised.
Could the chair, does the point of parliamentary inquiry?
State your inquiry.
Does the chair have the discretion to read the names of the 40-plus Republicans who put their name on a piece of paper to silence debate in this chamber today?
That is not a proper parliamentary inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right. The question occurs on ordering the previous question on the adoption of HR4. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed. A record vote has been requested. A record vote is granted. The question occurs on ordering the previous question on the adoption of HR4. All in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. This is a record vote. Clerk will ring the bell. You need aye.
Okay, who do I set?
Okay, you ready? There being 107 ayes and 35 nays and one present not voting with 7 absences, the previous question is ordered. Mr. Hunter to close on the resolution.
Move passage.
All right. The question occurs on the adoption of HR4. This is a record vote required by the Constitution. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Hunter voting aye. There being 116 ayes and 23 nays and one present not voting with 10 absences, HR4 is adopted. Members, now that the House has adopted its permanent rules for this session, it is time to begin the committee assignment process. Later today, we will deliver to your mailboxes a copy of the committee jurisdictions adopted today, along with committee preference cards and instructions for completing the cards. Completed cards must be delivered to the parliamentarian's office in 3W3 by 5 p.m. Tuesday, January 28th. Thank you, members. Members, the Speaker's desk is clear. Representative Hunter moves the House adjourn until 4 p.m. Monday in memory of Robert W. Gaston III of Baton Rouge, father of Stacy Nicchio, our committee coordinator. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and the House stands adjourned.